Good morning. Oh, well, good afternoon, everybody. I keep saying good morning. And good evening, Aaron. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much.
Welcome to a lavish conversation. Lavish conversations are conversations with inspiring people about why existing is just not enough. And our guest today is Aaron Reeder, actor, singer, phenomenon, director, producer. What don't you do? Little brother. Oh, you're not my little brother, though. I should probably clarify that.
Right.
You are a little brother, nonetheless.
Right.
And a mentor. Like, what don't you do? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I don't do Windows. So I'll give you like my elevator pitch. I'm an American performer and creative consultant based in Berlin, Germany. The work that I do crosses the disciplines of theater, music, and education, promoting dialogue and understanding around global and social issues, while also empowering people to find their own voice and means of creative expression.
I think that's pretty dope, though, in all honesty. Like, I mean, I'm sure you're like, this is my package, but like helping people find their voice to me, like, speaks volumes, number one. Number two, I feel like that's part of your big ripple that I don't know if you know that you make out here in this world. But I've heard inspiring chats from you that you were directing at someone else that was telling me about it because it did inspire them, just so you know.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, exactly. That means that
That's
you
doing
are
good
living.
work.
I feel like that's the difference too between existing and living. When you're living, you're making impacts that you don't even realize you're making because you're not necessarily living to make the impacts, but you're living your life to its fullest, which
Right.
means you're automatically exuberanting. No, what did you say? Expelling,
Sure, we can use expel.
dispersing, dispensing that light everywhere. So everyone is feeling it as you know, go
Right,
around.
right.
I'm breaking
I
things.
think that like I don't know. I think I'm not sure like so for the audience, we're related. And I'm not sure like if it's just like our family and it was something that was given, but I think that like acts of service was something that my parents especially sort of taught us that I
Mhm.
sort of like leaned into. And
Yeah.
especially growing up in like the church, I think that this was also some like a component that was also important to me.
Yeah.
Um, Music has been like a way that I've made connection with people all around the world. And I think that then utilizing music as a tool to build relationship is something that I use as like an act of service. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's not necessarily just, you know,
Intentional.
yeah, I don't think of it. I think, no, it is intentional. I just don't think about it on a regular basis and being
You think
like,
about it more on a smaller scale.
yeah, I don't think it's more on like a purposeful thing of like, today I'm going to do X, Y, and Z in order to receive this outcome. I
Mhm.
think in general, just like the work or just my daily being is
Right.
to be intentional in this way of living
I think that's very
truthfully.
important too. Yeah, fruitfully, exactly. So
Mhm.
like while you're not trying to make the impact that you're making though, you wake up and you have your intention. What was your intention for the day? Did you have an intention for today?
I actually had a performance this afternoon
Mhm.
for like this exhibition that's happening here with this museum. The
Mhm.
artist is an indigenous artist from Australia, and the concept of this work is based around essentially giving voice to First Nation
Mhm.
peoples in Australia and essentially just indigenous people all over within museums and gallery institutions.
Oh, that's
So
beautiful.
I think like my intention today going out of the house was again using this gift or this talent to make connection that people who had the chance to experience it today gained a different perspective uh,
Right.
than they walked in. And I think that that's something that I always ask or put out before I do any sort of performance is that whatever I do on stage changes someone's perspective or someone's outlook.
I think that's really good. You know, it's funny. Somebody told me to ask you what your intention is going on stage. When you're about to go on, what do you feel? What do you focus on? It was actually London, just so you know.
Yeah.
But so the first time, I mean, we have a very talented family, I must admit. And so not just talented family, but your siblings even, you know, most of your siblings can sing, and not just sing very well, you know. So as the baby, what made you say, I'm going to step out here and do something in that vein though? You know what I mean? Because they sing, but they sing more like, oh, well, this is just for church. Even though you may hear them singing and want to record.
Right.
It's not in them. Like, they're not like, oh yeah, I want to do this. And, you know.
Yeah, I don't know why. I'm not sure why I decided to do this. You know, the adage of like starving artists, blah, blah, blah. That was something that I never, you know, ascribed to at all.
Right.
Because I think that, again, yeah, your gift makes room. That's Bible.
How about that?
But no, seriously, I really think that like your gift, whatever that is, always leaves space for you to grow. But with that growth, I think this is what we were talking about a little earlier, is like the understanding of yourself, and what it is that you do want and what it is that you don't want. Sometimes letting go of certain things that you don't necessarily need to move forward is difficult. And I think, like we were saying before, I really feel that being put into a box is something that is very challenging to release, whether that's through, you know, the binding of like your parents and your parents' own history and experiences that they transfer to you, society's own views of who you are, what they think you are or think you should be, and accepting these things, and just life in general. Things happen in life that, you know, you kind of feel this is what's expected of me and this is what I should be doing. And I think that I always, even as a kid, sort of push back against that.
But that's exactly what I think creates that life of existing most often in people, as opposed to living. It's those boxes, like you said, that other people put us into. And so we perform according to the expectation that someone else laid on us when we didn't necessarily sign up for that. We didn't sign that contract. So why are we figuratively signing it then? You know what I mean? Yeah. Why do you do nothing because people think that you're nothing, instead of fighting against it and showing what you truly have inside of you and the light that's really trying to push through? And so when I had my conversation the other day with a friend of mine, Devi, I was talking to her about how we all have the light and darkness within us, right? So we all, because we have light in us, we all can really tap into that light. And it would shine brighter than I'm sure most of us are aware of, for real. Because like I said, even earlier to you, you don't realize the impact that you really make. You know, yes, you go out and you went out today to make a difference for the people that you sang for, but the people that hear this interview and hear about what your purpose is and where you came from, even, you know, or the people that hear your songs or recordings from things you did before, you know, all of those. I think it's very pivotal. So do you have moments where you find yourself back in a mode of just like comfort and kind of existing again? Like I have when you have a regular job, maybe, you know, a regular contract, like it's long term, all the bills.
Oh, long term. I thought when you said regular.
Yeah, like, no, not a regular.
I was like, no, that's the first thing. Like, a 9 to 5 won't work. Because again, I remember, like, I don't even remember how old I was, but Felicia Rashad and Debbie Allen did like a 2020 interview with Barbara Walters for like a Mother Day special. And they were like doing this interview with their mother and talking about how their mother moved them to Mexico. And once they both decided that they wanted to be in the arts, their mother said, don't take any job outside of your chosen profession. It will just be a distraction from what it is that your calling actually is. And I think that even as a kid, I would not have thought that I would be, singing at the Metropolitan Opera or living in Berlin.
Right.
But even like as a kid, I took that to heart.
You've been on Broadway.
I've not been on the Broadway. I lived in New York for 5 years. I've worked on some pre-Broadway shows, but I haven't been on Broadway
itself.
Yeah.
But wait a minute. I'm sorry. So you have an announcement, though. Something just came out on Thursday.
Oh!
If you don't tell everybody the facts,
I'm just humble. I'm just humble. So
happy to be here.
I'm just happy to be here. I'm living life, trying to strive to do good things and pay my bills on time. I worked on a new opera by jazz trumpeter Terrence Blanchard earlier this season at Lyric Chicago, and was contacted by his team later on about coming to do a recording for The Woman King, which just opened in the US on Thursday.
Yes,
Today's Saturday.
Viola Davis, Thursday.
Yeah. So I'm on that little, I'm on a soundtrack now.
I'm so excited, so happy.
I'm excited.
But it is a testament. This is a direct testament, in my opinion, to the benefits of not just existing, but living. You know what I mean? Like when you first started out, I'm sure you didn't picture, even though you were dreaming and all that stuff, I'm sure you weren't like, so I'm going to come be on a soundtrack for this movie with
right.
You know what I mean? Everybody's sitting around waiting on the movie, excited about it releasing. It's not just like a B movie or a, Sundance or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not a festival movie, But so that's a very big accomplishment. So when you have moments, though, that you feel down, because I know you've had those, especially being all the way in Germany, your family is in the US. How do you keep yourself inspired? How do you make sure that you don't fall into that existence again?
I think for me, having the family that I do have and knowing that I do have a support system has been like a huge thing for me, that like even a quote unquote failure is never something that's like completely a mess that I have to deal with by myself. I think the building of community has always been important to me. Every time that I've moved to a different city, I establish, usually before I arrive there, a community that I know that I can sort of depend on to a certain degree, and then continue building a firmer community. So just having opportunities to socialize and talk to people. And I mean, think of like the pandemic that just happened, where some places you weren't allowed out of your house.
Right. Yeah.
So I know that I talk to my brothers and sisters via like Skype or via online platforms more often than we were talking before the pandemic.
Yeah.
So I think for me, in those times where I sort of, I'll say, get distracted or get pulled away or become unfocused, I utilize the community that I've built up.
So for anybody that may be watching or that may see this, who wants to step out and their dream or their feeling of living as opposed to existing consists of something like maybe going to a new area or venturing out like that, how do you go about setting up a community for yourself?
Yeah, I'm definitely of this sort of your network is something that you can always tap into, and utilizing the resources around you. It's 2022. There's no way that you don't have accessibility to information, even if it's just the Google search.
Right.
And in all honesty, I really feel that like human beings want to connect with one another in the first place. So as soon as you have like this moment of curiosity to explore something, I mean, if your family isn't available, if your friends, aren't available to give, that sort of access to this new thing for you, then venture out and ask other people. There's communities of all sorts of things.
Well, anybody that knows me knows I talk to anybody, right?
Right.
So would you consider yourself, first off, an extrovert or an introvert?
No, I'm definitely an introvert.
You are?
I think that I'm social when I need to be social, but during this pandemic, I've set up in this house cooking meals for myself. I was totally fine being in the house.
You were like, yay, outside is closed. But seriously. But so as an extrovert, though, I definitely talk to people. But I find that even as so I am an extrovert, but I'm an introvert. You know what I mean? So I believe it or not, I have to consciously make myself step out and go ahead and do that, But I find that if you say something to somebody, if somebody walks up to you and talks to you, generally you're not going to be nasty to them. Generally you're not going to be mean, especially if the person approaches you kindly, unless something's going on.
I'll tell you this. So I'm the type of person that will go to a restaurant by myself and like have a meal. I'll go to the bar, sit by myself and like have a drink. So there have been a number of occasions where I'm chilling at the bar or sitting at a table and somebody will start a conversation and we're having an exchange. One of the last times that this happened, there was like, serendipity sort of thing. I was going to South Africa completely randomly. I decided to like pack a bag and go on a vacation.
Yes, these are my Fulani earrings if you want to see.
And this woman like sat down next to me and began a conversation. And I was telling her, I think I'm going to go to South Africa because I recognized her accent. I was like, I'm going to go to South Africa. And she was like, do you need a place to stay? And I was like, maybe. And she ended up like connecting me with her family and friends in Cape Town and like giving me her summer home.
That's so amazing.
It was amazing. But these sorts of things happen, I think. I don't know. I think I really do live a charmed life. I'll say that.
But you realize, so leading this charmed life is basically the manifestation that like you're creating this life. You created this life. I was at Oakcrest Elementary School right before you got there. You know what I mean? Like there were a lot of kids there. My kids went to Oakcrest Elementary School at one point. So, I mean, you made the conscious decision, and the truth of the matter is when you made it, I'm sure there were plenty of people talking about, I don't know, do you want to do that? You're sure you don't want to be an accountant? You don't like numbers? Or something practical,
Something practical,
Yeah, and people always, I mean, even when I was growing up and people would say, what do you want to be when you grow up? Which I hate that question, by the way. You're already something when you're born. Don't ask people what they want to be. They are something. They may want to be something more or something else. But when people would ask me that and I would answer, I would constantly get, you need a practical job. You need to pick something, you need to have a plan B. To me, a plan B is actually planning to fail.
Okay. My father would always say, like, instead of like, what do you want to be? It wasn't even that. It was like, if you are a thief, you better be the best goddamn thief there is.
Teeny quotes.
Right, teeny quotes. I think that like, even with that was empowering in a way that whatever it is that you decide to do it well. And something that he also offered was like, know every aspect of whatever it is that you choose to do. And I think for my my profession, I think that it is very important to know all aspects of this business of show. And it served me very well in recognizing that it is a business, So much so that I ended up creating like a seminar for emerging artists and established artists in how to diversify their income beyond just like the stage work.
Right. Getting rid of that starving part of the starving artist.
Starving artists does not exist, and it shouldn't exist because you're a commodity that people are always consuming.
Right, exactly. Hold on. Somebody in the chat said, first off, somebody said you sure did have to, press through and go against the naysayers. But then someone else said, however, with being an extrovert, we need to use discernment and seeking out those, making sure we stay away from negative spirits. She said, they said, I'm an extrovert and exercise caution with people I allow in my circle to engage with. I do agree with that, definitely. Like, I can keep you here and still engage. You know what I'm saying?
I think that that's very true. Like, don't close yourself off to opportunities to say yes, but always be wary of the people who are looking to consume you.
Right, exactly. But something else I was talking about the other day, and that actually brings it to mind. We as a people, I feel like, but a lot of people anyway, but we as people of color, I'm saying, have a tendency to operate in this survival mode because of all the things that occur in society, in our homes, and you know what I mean? Just all the stuff that occurs to somebody. You get so used to trying to protect yourself that you start being in this survival mode so much that you think you're being attacked when you're not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like what if that lady came up to you at the bar and went to start talking to you, and you were like,
Tamika, when she first sat down, I was like, ugh.
That's what I mean.
But then again, like I've learned to make this shift. So did I feel like being bothered by her when she initially sat down? And what is this conversation? Because again, I always end up attracting sort of like the people that I'm like, now I need to deal with this energy and this person. Okay. Yeah. So sometimes that happens of just like, I don't feel like talking. So when she did sit down, my initial reaction was like, here we go. But as the conversation went on, eventually I was able to shift to say what I was doing, what I needed. And she was open enough to receive it and say, well, here's what I can offer. And it was something that the exchange was not something that I was looking for or even expecting.
Yeah.
But in this regards, going back to like your thought, I think that people, not just us, but
the survival.
Survival. You either spend, your hours at the whim of somebody else and other people's expectations on tragedy, dwelling in like this uncertainty, or you start living how you really want to. And you have to take time to heal, to grieve, to find closure in things of the past. Yeah. And as I was saying before, like your parents or the people that you're raised by transfer a lot of their history.
Yes.
Sometimes not intentionally, but it's just things as like a little creature that you pick up the habits of.
Right.
You pick up the emotions of.
Right.
And this isn't, taking the time to heal or make these changes. It's not necessarily about wallowing, more in it. It's about acknowledging that this has happened, whether it's brokenness, whatever.
Right.
This like brokenness is not necessarily a defect. It's an element of being human, and it deserves your attention and not judgment in addressing it and making whatever change you need in order to move forward. There's a James Baldwin quote that is like, when you begin to live by habit, you've begun to stop living.
That's existing. That's existing. Yes. Oh my gosh. Love it.
But I think that like really like for me, and then this goes back to sort of the moments when I know that I'm not fully present for myself or with myself, is when you are completely just like half-assing sort of thing. And then I ask like, okay, why am I in like this condition right now? I think for me, I recognize for me what that is. But for others, it might be simply the fear of being misunderstood. I know for the longest time when people would be like, oh, Aaron, he's weird, or you're weird. This like really like irked me so much. But then I'm like, I'm fine with being unique. I'm fine with being not what it is that you are. I'm fine with not being
vanilla,
the cookie cutter like thing that everyone else is supposed to be. But that's not what we're meant for. We're all built to serve in different ways and to be here and to interact and have an exchange with one another in different ways. So stop depreciating yourself. Stop making your light smaller, your intelligence, your knowledge, your skill, your worth, or whatever. Stop toning down your quirks because other people may scoff and judge out of their own, insecurities, out of their own closed-mindedness,
Right. Somebody else is going to see your quirks though and identify with them and realize that their quirks are the same and are as cute or attractive or loving or whatever endearing as yours. People, I got the same thing. And you said something in that about turning down your light. People are always trying to get people to dim their lights for the next person. But when you think about that whole, we all have light and dark in us. If you try to get everybody to turn their light down, how much more darkness are you encouraging in the world for real? I'm just saying. Oh, wait, we have another comment. Yes, my biological and adoptive parents passed stuff down by genetics and experiences. Went my own path through and broke away from it all. I feel like that's again an example perfectly of living, because we all know that we have genetic stamps that pass down with us. So trauma that your parents endured, especially if it was while, say, your mom is pregnant with you, or all of those things, they do definitely make an imprint and they come with you. But you have to make that decision to push through that, to live different, to make a left turn instead of just keep walking straight like everybody else. I think that's awesome. Oh, wait, let me remind you. I know I owe you a whole lot of things, but this shirt here is our new shirt. It's a sweatshirt though. Jackie, the first person, got a t-shirt, but you'll get a sweatshirt though. Is it cold in Germany? It is, right?
Not yet. It's already turning. Like usually when the sun goes away, it's quite cold.
That's what I was thinking. Yes, because it's getting cold here already in the mornings again and night. So you should have a big old box of stuff because I owe you things already. But before we go, I know we were a little late starting too, so I don't want to wrap up yet, but I do want to make sure that I get in. What things do you feel are on your heart that you would say if somebody asked you, what is the difference between existing and living? What really is the difference?
Being honest, I think that we were on the brink of talking about this when we realized that we weren't live. I think that being honest with yourself and taking the time to explore what it is that you do and do not want and how you're serving others is like a huge component for me. Shaping your perception is so powerful that even like the slightest change in that perspective can completely change everything from your motivation and outlook to your self-esteem and your confidence. Passive experience, being passive rather than feeling this sort of enthusiasm and passion and engagement in your own life, I think is something that I feel is living. Or rather not being passive in the experience of life, but being enthusiastic and being passionate and being engaged in self. And then, like, once you're full or you have more, then you can do for others.
It'll pour over.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, we always learn about that, pouring out from an empty cup or trying to pour from an empty cup. But I don't feel like we learn enough skills or about how to fill your cup up in the first place.
Again, it's a practice. And if you're a child or you're a person that's been given, you know, a set of tools, but you don't know how to, a toolbox, but you don't know how to use the tools.
So like, how do you fill yourself up?
Ooh.
When your cup is running low, because you're always pouring out.
You know what? I think that, like, for the longest time, as I was like really making this transition into performance, I would take regular vacations.
With others or by yourself?
No, I would take vacations by myself. And it could be, you know, just like a car ride to a city in Maryland that I hadn't visited, or it could be me doing literally a weekend trip to Barcelona. I mean, that's I have money to be spending.
But guess what, though? Guess what? If you didn't go, you wouldn't have had the experience. And who's
right? Exactly. Later? So I think that that's even what you just said. Like, the experience is something that also edified me in a way that my perception changed.
Okay, perception change.
That, like, being able to embrace this change and this growth, and then utilizing like this new experience to grow and change. In all honesty, it just like showed that it was larger.
It's that shift that they talk about, you know. I definitely, so I don't know if you know this, but I definitely came to the realization, especially recently, well, I guess it wasn't recently, a year ago, when my world got knocked over. I came to the realization that although I've been alive and I've been living and I have several accomplishments under my belt, I don't feel like I was living to my fullest. Do you feel what I'm saying?
Yeah, I totally understand.
Yeah, so I found myself needing to go ahead and jump into that shift, because in the quote unquote living that I was doing before, I couldn't continue to operate like that with my world now being knocked down. The only way for me to continue forward was to create a new life, you know?
And being okay with saying, okay, I need to make something new.
Exactly.
Even though everyone is like, ooh, what are you doing?
Right.
What you've been doing is fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I mean,
like,
I've
no,
been
it's
an
not
HR
fine.
professional for over 20 years.
Yeah.
HR is great. I love HR. I'm good at it. However, I have a lot of other skills and a lot of other things that make me feel alive and make me feel driven and make me feel that evolution in me occurring. You know, these conversations are a perfect example, you know, creating my candles, my soaps, all of those types of things, you know. I mean,
again, what is it that gives you this feeling of enthusiasm?
Right.
What makes you bubble in passion? What makes you feel engaged about your own life? If it's not HR on a regular basis, then why are you doing it?
Exactly. How about you go out there and live your best life?
And again, we can come up with an immediate answer like, oh, I need money. I don't have the luxury of doing what it is.
It's funny because we always need money and we always will need money. And you will never have paid everybody everything that possibly and bought all the supplies you might need. You know, there's never a done with money. So it's very hard. It's easy to say, but it's hard to do. But exactly. You can't operate driven by money. But a lot of us do. It's just like us all getting out of we go to school so that we can go work, so that we can pay for school until we can't work anymore.
Right.
But we also aren't necessarily in the best condition and health, maybe, depending on who you are and what you did while you were sitting around working. And God forbid the work is just sitting there all day sedentary, you know what I mean? Not getting any physical energy, no air outside. Like, the universe was created for us. We were not meant to spend our lives in a room, you know?
You know what? I think my moving from like the hustle of New York City to Germany was a huge shift. Like I'm gonna say like the first 2 years was very different to sort of accept the pace of like city New York versus city Berlin,
Right.
where the pace of people, like the work ethic was so vastly different from the American work ethic.
Oh, I can imagine.
I was like, oh, why are they so lazy?
Oh,
But
really?
it wasn't laziness. They just knew when to take a fucking break.
Yeah, they're calm,
Like tuned in, like, okay, it's time for vacation. When people go on summer vacation, there's no phone. You cannot reach them. No kind of way.
So nobody is sitting there doing their work, even though they're on vacation anyway.
Nope.
Yeah. And I feel like that's what America is driven by. And we need to start refocusing ourselves so that we can encourage that light to keep rising and kind of bring down the darkness. We're in crazy times anyway. Look at how the world operates. And it's not like, oh, it's something new. I mean, look at in the 80s, it was crazy, you know, so it's been crazy for a while, although we didn't have COVID then. I mean, we had other things, we had crack. So, so we've seen some crazy times in this world. I think it's very much so up to all of us to realize, first off, that we are not individuals. We are all connected. We are all one. What I do impacts you, impacts the next person, impacts, you know, a lot of people outside of myself. And that whole living thing is just, something that if you do it, you'll encourage the next person to live.
And that's what, exactly.
Oh, Aaron, any final words?
No.
Did you enjoy our conversation?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Finally catch up.
You have to inbox me the correct address to send these to, because the last time I sent them, they came back.
Are you serious?
I'm serious, because I'm going to mail them this week. Everybody is here to be my accountability partner. Anyone who saw this, you can inbox Aaron and ask him, did he get his box? Maybe next week, I guess, because it's coming from here to Germany. But it will be in the mail this week.
Done.
That's how I hold myself accountable. I have to tell others.
You didn't put it on the internet. So
it's on Benance's internet. Aaron, I really appreciate you. I want to encourage everybody out there to make sure you go out there and live today. Don't just be out here existing, and make sure you make your self-care requirement today, because you are not an option. And check out the website so you can get our new shirts designed by Versace and me. All right. Thank you so much. I love you. You're the best little cousin in the whole wide world.
I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Everybody have a great day. Be lavish. Be lovely. Bye. I can't cut my camera off. I'm leaving you guys.